Who are the Druze? Mysterious, misunderstood, and deeply rooted in the mountains of the Middle East, the Druze are a secretive religious group with beliefs hidden from the outside world. They don't accept converts, believe in reincarnation, and follow a path that blends Islam, Greek philosophy, and ancient wisdom. Found mainly in Lebanon, Syria, and Israel, the Druze have played powerful roles in history, despite their small numbers. In this video, we'll uncover their origins, beliefs, and why they've survived centuries of conflict while keeping their faith locked behind closed doors. Get ready to meet one of the world's most enigmatic communities. In the shadowy folds of the Middle Eastern mountains lives a community as mysterious as it is enduring, the Druze. Known for their secrecy, resilience, and distinctive beliefs, the Druze people have existed for over a millennium, quietly shaping history while shrouding their inner world from outsiders. With a religious philosophy that fuses Islamic mysticism, Greek philosophy, Hindu metaphysics, and Abrahamic traditions, the Druze faith is unlike any other. This essay aims to explore who the Druze are, tracing their historical origins, religious doctrines, cultural identity, and their role in the modern world. 1. Origins. The birth of a secret faith. The Druze religion originated in the 11th century CE, during the rule of the Fatimid Caliphate, an Ismaili Shia Muslim dynasty that ruled over large parts of North Africa and the Middle East. The movement emerged under the reign of the enigmatic Fatimid Caliph, Al-Hakim Bay'amar Allah, who ruled from Cairo between 996 and 1021 CE. Al-Hakim was a controversial figure. To some, he was a tyrant. To others, he was a divine incarnation. The Druze see him as a key manifestation of divine wisdom. Around 1017 CE, a group of mystic philosophers, led by Hamza ibn Ali ibn Ahmad, proclaimed a radical spiritual doctrine that recognized Al-Hakim not merely as a political leader, but as a divine figure, a vehicle of divine unity. This marked the foundation of the Druze faith. However, their beliefs diverged too far from mainstream Islam. Within a few years, the Fatimid state suppressed the movement, and its adherents fled to the remote mountains of Lebanon, Syria, and later northern Israel. There, they built a closed, secretive society that survived persecution, preserved its teachings, and passed them only through oral and written transmission to the initiated. 2. Beliefs and theology, hidden truths. At its core, the Druze religion is known as Tawhid, which means oneness or unification of God. But unlike Islamic Tawhid, which affirms God's singularity and transcendence, the Druze version incorporates deep esoteric meanings, metaphysics, and Gnostic ideas. Key beliefs. Monotheism with mystical unity. God is seen as an absolute, unknowable unity that manifests through different historical figures, including Al-Hakim. The goal is to return to oneness with God, achieved through spiritual purification and wisdom. Reincarnation. The Druze believe in Tanasuk, or reincarnation, where the soul transmigrates into another human body immediately after death. This cycle continues until the soul reaches ultimate enlightenment and unity with the divine. Sacred texts, epistles of wisdom, Rasail al-Hikmah. The Druze do not follow the Quran in the same way Muslims do. Instead, their sacred scripture consists of 111 epistles, kept secret from the uninitiated. These texts explore philosophy, ethics, theology, and allegories meant to guide the soul toward divine truth. No rituals, mosques, or pilgrimage. Unlike Islam or Christianity, Druze religious practice is deeply internal. They do not have public rituals, fasts, or pilgrimages. Worship is based on ethical living, inner purity, loyalty, and wisdom, not formal rites. Esotericism and secrecy. The faith is deeply esoteric. Only a select group known as Uqal, the Wise, are allowed to study the full religious texts and participate in the spiritual life. The rest, Jahil, the ignorant, live ordinary lives and support the community, but they are not taught the deeper doctrines. 3. Identity and community life. Being Druze is more than a religion. It's an ethno-religious identity passed down through generations. There are no conversions into the faith, and Druze do not marry outside the community. This exclusivity has helped preserve their unique culture and avoid assimilation. Structure of society. Ukkel and Jahil. The Ukkel, who wear traditional garb and lead spiritual life, serve as community elders and moral guides. The Jahil, while not spiritually initiated, form the bulk of society and uphold Druze traditions. Gender roles. Druze society is relatively egalitarian, especially in religious access. Women can become Ukkel, and historically, Druze women have had higher social status than in surrounding societies. Education and ethics. Education, truthfulness, loyalty, and self-control are emphasized. Alcohol and tobacco are discouraged, and gossip, dishonor, and betrayal are condemned. 4. Geographic distribution. The global Druze population is estimated to be between 1 and 2 million. The majority reside in the Levant, particularly in the mountainous regions that have historically provided them sanctuary and autonomy. Lebanon, home to the largest Druze population, particularly in the Chuf, Mount Lebanon, and Bekaa regions. Politically influential through the Progressive Socialist Party and historical figures like Kamal Jumblat and his son Walid Jumblat. The Druze are recognized as one of Lebanon's 18 official sects and hold parliamentary seats. Syria, concentrated in Jabal al-Druze, also known as Jabal al-Arab, a mountainous area in southern Syria. Druze leaders in Syria have often maintained local autonomy and stayed neutral during major conflicts. Despite tensions during the Syrian civil war, many Druze communities chose pragmatic alliances to ensure survival. Israel. Druze are recognized as a distinct religious minority. Unique among Arab groups in Israel, many Druze serve voluntarily in the Israeli Defense Forces, IDF, and hold government positions. They maintain loyalty to the State of Israel while preserving their cultural distinctiveness. Diaspora. Significant Druze communities exist in Venezuela, Brazil, the United States, Canada, and Australia due to migration during times of political instability. These diaspora communities often maintain strong connections to their homelands and religious traditions. 5. Political and historical influence. Though numerically small, the Druze have held outsized political influence in the Middle East due to their strategic geographic positions, military skill, and ability to form pragmatic alliances. In the Ottoman Empire, the Druze often clashed with Ottoman authorities, but also served as regional power brokers. In Lebanon, they fought the Maronites in a series of sectarian conflicts, especially in the 1860 Civil War, which shaped the future of the country. During French colonialism. In Syria, the Druze under Sultan al-Atrash led the Great Syrian Revolt, 1925 to 1927, against French rule, cementing their status as national heroes. In modern times. In Lebanon, Druze politicians have consistently played a balancing role in sectarian politics. In Israel, Druze are often portrayed as a model minority, though tensions exist regarding their identity as Arabs serving in a Jewish state. In Syria, Druze communities have often taken a neutral stance in civil conflicts, but have defended their territories when threatened. 6. Relations with other faiths. Druze relations with neighboring faiths have been complex, because they are often seen as heretical by mainstream Muslims, especially by Salafists. The Druze have faced centuries of persecution and often chose isolation as a survival mechanism. They maintain diplomatic, respectful relations with Christians, especially Maronites in Lebanon, Muslims, though with caution due to theological differences, Jews, especially in Israel, where they have integrated politically. Their theology is inclusive in some ways. They recognize the wisdom of multiple prophets, including Moses, Jesus, Muhammad, Socrates, Plato, and even Hindu figures in some interpretations. Yet they remain exclusive in membership and spiritual access. 7. Challenges and the future. The Druze face several challenges today. Demographic decline. Due to small numbers, endogamy, and emigration, their population growth is slow. Modernization versus tradition. Like many traditional societies, the Druze are balancing modern education, technology, and gender roles with their ancient values and secrecy. Political uncertainty. In Syria and Lebanon, political instability threatens the safety and autonomy of Druze communities. Identity crisis in Israel. Young Druze in Israel face difficult questions about loyalty, ethnicity, and integration. Despite these pressures, the Druze have shown remarkable resilience, maintaining their identity for over 1,000 years through a combination of secrecy, adaptability, and strong internal cohesion. In a world increasingly interconnected and dominated by global narratives, few communities have managed to maintain their distinct identity while remaining deeply embedded in the political, cultural, and historical fabric of their region. The Druze, a small but deeply rooted ethno-religious group spread primarily across Lebanon, Syria, and Israel, embody this paradox. They are at once a community apart and a community within, apart in their secretive theology and rigid internal boundaries, yet deeply within the societies and states they inhabit. This essay explores the unique resilience of the Druze, examining how their faith, social structure, historical role, and modern challenges reflect an enduring commitment to identity, morality, and communal survival. The Druze are more than a religion. They are a living heritage, shaped by geography, adversity, and a philosophy of inward strength. 1. Faith rooted in mystery and philosophy. At the heart of Druze identity is a belief system known as Al-Tawhid, or the doctrine of divine unity. This esoteric religion developed in the early 11th century under the Fatimid Caliphate, particularly during the reign of the eccentric and mysterious Caliph Al-Hakim Bay'amar Allah. What began as a radical interpretation of Ismaili Sharia Islam soon evolved into an entirely distinct theology. The Druze faith draws from a mosaic of sources: Islamic mysticism, Neoplatonism, Gnosticism, Christianity, Zoroastrianism, and even Indian metaphysical concepts like reincarnation. This spiritual syncretism is not open to the public. Only the Aql, the wise, a small group of religiously initiated men and women, are permitted to study the Rasail al-Hikmah, the epistles of wisdom that contain the full theological teachings of the Druze. Most Druze, referred to as Juhal the ignorant, are not allowed to access these sacred texts. This division between the initiated and the uninitiated is not a mark of inferiority, but a reflection of the community's belief in spiritual maturity and the importance of earning wisdom through ethical living. This deeply esoteric tradition emphasizes unity of God, transcending physical form and human attributes, reincarnation as a process of spiritual evolution, knowledge, self-discipline, and truthfulness as core virtues, the hidden nature of divine truth, accessible only to those spiritually prepared. Rather than external displays of worship, Druze piety is demonstrated through ethical behavior, loyalty to community, and personal integrity. 2. Social structure and endogamy, preserving the core. Unlike many religious groups, the Druze do not accept converts. To be Druze, one must be born Druze. This exclusivity has ensured the integrity and survival of the faith across centuries of persecution and assimilation pressures. Druze society is organized around strict social cohesion. Marriage outside the faith is forbidden. Community life is guided by elders and religious sages. Education, mutual aid, and loyalty are heavily emphasized. Despite their secretive nature, the Druze are not isolationist. They live side by side with Christians, Muslims, and Jews, and often participate in national politics and military institutions. What differentiates them is not withdrawal, but a strategic openness. They are active citizens, but on their own terms. In many ways, the Druze have perfected the art of engagement without dilution. Their collective memory of persecution, from the Crusades to Ottoman purges to modern political upheavals, has taught them that survival depends on both adaptability and preservation. 3. Historical resilience. The mountain as refuge and fortress. Geography has played a critical role in Druze endurance. Historically, they have inhabited mountainous regions, the Chuf Mountains in Lebanon, Jabal al-Druze in Syria, and the Carmel Range in Israel. These elevated homelands provided natural fortification and a degree of autonomy from distant empires and central governments. Throughout history, the Druze have fought off Crusaders, Mamluks, and Ottomans, formed powerful alliances with other minorities and local rulers, played decisive roles in revolts and independence movements. One of the most emblematic figures is Sultan Al-Atrash, a Syrian Druze leader who spearheaded the Great Syrian Revolt against the French Mandate in 1925. He is a national hero not just among Druze, but across Syria, a rare case where the interests of a closed community aligned with broader nationalist aspirations. In Lebanon, the Druze have been central to political developments for centuries. Leaders like Fakhr al-Din II helped shape the early identity of Mount Lebanon, and in modern times, the Jumblat dynasty has wielded enormous political influence through the Progressive Socialist Party. In Israel, the Druze are one of the few Arab communities to fully integrate into the state, including mandatory military service in the Israeli Defense Forces. This has both strengthened their societal role and caused internal tensions regarding identity and allegiance. 4. Ethics over ritual, a different kind of spirituality. One of the most unique aspects of the Druze is their de-emphasis on ritual. There are no formal mosques, daily prayers, fasting during Ramadan, or pilgrimages. Instead, the Druze focus on internal spirituality and ethical conduct. The 5 core ethical principles of Druze faith are truthfulness, sidq, honesty in word and action, fellowship, hifz al-ikhwan, loyalty to fellow Druze, renunciation of other religions, tark ibadat al-mazahir, internal spiritual practice over external rituals, purity and honor, tahara wa al-sharaf, moral and physical cleanliness, submission to the divine will rida, acceptance of destiny and divine order. For the Druze, God is not to be approached through ritual or repetition, but through personal moral excellence and knowledge of the self. This philosophical orientation makes their religion closer to a way of life than a set of dogmas. 5. Modern identity, between nationalism and tradition. Today, the Druze continue to walk a tightrope between integration and distinctiveness. In Lebanon, they are a recognized religious sect with guaranteed representation in parliament. Yet the country's fragile sectarian balance means that every community must fight to protect its share of power. In Syria, the Druze have taken cautious stances during the civil war. Many avoided openly joining the regime or the opposition, focusing instead on defending their territories and minimizing bloodshed. In Israel, Druze identity is uniquely complex. Though they serve in the military and participate in civic life, Some younger Druze question their role in a state that defines itself as Jewish. Debates over the nation-state law of 2018, which prioritized Jewish self-determination, sparked protests from Druze soldiers and elders alike. Across the diaspora, Druze communities in the Americas and Australia have largely preserved their identity, often establishing religious centers and cultural associations to pass down traditions to younger generations. 6. Challenges to continuity. Despite their resilience, the Druze face growing challenges. Demographic decline. Low birth rates and endogamous marriage rules have led to concerns over long-term population sustainability. Modernization. As younger generations become more globalized and technologically connected, some of the strict boundaries that defined Druze life are eroding. Secrecy versus openness. In an age of transparency, the Druze model of religious secrecy is harder to maintain. Curiosity among young Druze and pressure from external scholars test the limits of their traditional boundaries. Political volatility. In the Levant, no community is immune to regional instability. As power shifts and alliances change, the Druze must constantly renegotiate their place within the broader socio-political landscape. Still, the Druze do not measure survival by numbers or influence alone. For them, endurance is spiritual and cultural. It is about being who they are, regardless of who watches or what happens around them. 7. A living philosophy. Lessons from the Druze. The Druze teach us that community is not built solely on visibility, nor is power always loud. Their legacy reminds the world that it is possible to live with conviction without imposing it, guard tradition without retreating from the world, participate in modern life without losing one's soul. In a time when identity is often commodified or politicized, the Druze offer an alternative vision, an identity lived quietly but deeply, guided not by spectacle but by meaning. Their ethics-centered faith promotes a rare blend of individual responsibility and communal solidarity. To be Druze is to belong to a people whose roots run deep, whose theology resists simplification, and whose place in history is both prominent and hidden. They are a reminder that difference need not mean division, and that spiritual depth can coexist with worldly engagement. Enduring by design. The Druze are by design a community apart, in belief, in structure, in secrecy. Yet they remain a community within, integral to the nations they live in, contributors to the world they inhabit. Their story is not one of isolation, but of calculated presence, shaped by the fires of history and the discipline of belief. In a rapidly changing world, the Druze represent a different kind of resilience, not one that shouts for attention, but one that speaks in whispers passed down through generations, not a fortress, but a temple built within the heart. In staying apart, the Druze have remained together. In staying hidden, they have never disappeared. And in guarding their truth, they have continued to live it. The Druze remain one of the world's most fascinating and hidden communities, guardians of a faith few outsiders truly understand. Their resilience, loyalty, and rich traditions have helped them endure through centuries of change and conflict. From their secret scriptures to their powerful role in the Middle East, the Druze story is far from over. If you found this glimpse into their world intriguing, don't forget to like, subscribe, and share. Let us know in the comments what other hidden histories or mysterious faiths you'd like us to explore next. Thanks for watching, and stay curious, because the truth is always deeper.